Hi, everyone. Good morning. I'm Cam. I'm CEO and co-founder of TrapFi. We make it easy for freelance software developers to hire and manage other freelance software developers. Freelance software developers subcontract $40 billion every year to other freelance developers. And ironically, they don't have software themselves to manage this process. So that's what TrapFi is doing. Here's an example of what this looks like today. Kate is a front-end web developer, and she was just hired by Nike to build a promotional website, but she needs some help with the back end. And so she hires Danny to fulfill the back end of the contract. Here's how TrapFi makes this easy for her. Kate presses a button, and we send her a board. And on that board, it has every single task that needs to be completed for her project. It has the cost of each task, and it has a bunch of Dannys embedded in it that she can approve and hire to complete those tasks. So here's what the alternative is to TrapFi today. A freelance software developer who's completing a project for Nike, Adidas, Under Armour. They have to manage email, Slack, do-it-yourself boards, and it's just completely fragmented. And if you can imagine Kate having 4 different contracts to manage and having to juggle between all these platforms, it's a huge pain point. Versus with TrapFi, she just presses 4 buttons and we give her 4 boards and her process is pretty automated. We launched about 10 weeks ago, and so far we have 100 developers that we've approved, and we have 500 developers on the waiting list. We're doing a little bit of revenue right now as well. Our revenue sources are our developers pay $25 per month. We know they're serious if they do this, and we earn 10% of shared contracts. So we don't earn anything on the general contract, but the contract that's shared, we earn 10%. Our growth strategy today is developer invites. 1 developer brings us 10 friends. Kate may have a back-end developer that she likes working with, and that's fine. She can invite that developer to TrapFi and manage them through our platform. Hackathon invites. It turns out that this is also probably the best way to run a hackathon and manage a hackathon, and so we'll try to leverage that some. And then the last is campus invites. We've had a few interesting situations where a computer science student was actually sharing their homework through our platform. And interesting enough, like they're sharing that to an experienced developer, and they can actually learn how to be a better computer scientist by having that kind of collaboration and that kind of environment. And so we really want to be able to empower student developers. And if you've ever been a broke college student, being able to access work and access contracts could be a good thing as well. Our team, we're all freelancers. We've all shared work with each other. We believe that shared work can be as abundant and accessible as shared information. And truthfully, maybe one of the most moral things you can do for someone is share work with them. Our greatest challenge today is increasing our handoffs. Handoff is when we introduce you to one of our top developers. So you have software needs, we'll introduce you to the developer in a non-zero-sum game, and our developer will scope that project out for you, work with you, go through the process without having anybody in the middle. That developer works for you, and then they'll use our tools to probably complete that project. And the thing is, if you're gonna get software built, it's awesome to have a top 10% developer or a developer who's full-time at Google, but they wanna build cool things after work as well because they love what they do, to be able to lead your project, complete your project, and then they'll use TrapFi to have a little bit of help with that. My email is cam@trapfi.com. You can email me here any questions, and I look forward to questions during the Q&A. Thank you.
Did that in record time. Well, we're going to have the same format this time, about 14 minutes of Q&A, and just hold on to the microphone until your question is complete, because sometimes it might spark a second half. So who has questions?
So how is this different from something like Upwork or like traditional solutions? Like I'm sure you've used websites to find freelance jobs before. How is this different?
Absolutely. So 2 things. if you are, let's say, you're a soccer uncle and you want a website built for your soccer team, then Upwork is the best place to go. TrapFi isn't, right? You go to Upwork and you connect to a developer and you kind of work through the details there. On TrapFi, everyone's a developer. We'll make an email introduction and do handoffs, but we're kind of hands off in that process. And so developer to developer is the biggest difference. The second biggest difference is our tools. And so on TrapFi, like no developer has a profile where they kind of have like the marketing jargon of saying, hey, hire me for $15 an hour. Every developer has like their code style, their code samples. And so every profile is kind of designed for a developer to be able to quickly recognize and say, hey, this is a good hire. I want to work with this person. And so there's a lot of like different nuances in the tools that are specifically designed for developers, where if someone that wasn't a developer, it would just be really confusing for them. And so we kind of have carved out a different niche there.
Hi, my questions to one is, I didn't get exactly the $25 of why they would pay it, and is it the developers? That's one question. The other one is, you pre-screen the developers? So if I'm coming into your platform, one of the things I would get is somebody that's really good, because you've already pre-screened them, you've already looked at that. Is that one offer that you would give me?
Not exactly. So we actually allow developers to screen other developers. And so we think we have kind of two unique insights. One, like developers are usually the best clients for other developers. And then two, developers know how to recognize good developers better than we could. So we don't have a screening process. If a developer pays $25 per month, they get access to the tools, they get access to the developer community, they get access to work in a lot of senses. And then we match based on skill tags, based on code styles. And then a developer like Kate, she would just quickly like look on the profile, look at the code style. We have kind of sort of a karma process built in where developers will leave feedback on developers. And so that's kind of our quality control mechanism there.
Okay, thank you. How does this work with GitHub and Trello and Slacks, that those, where you've got kind of the work and the burn downs and so forth? How does that all integrate in?
Yeah, great question. So here's the thing that we realize. Like Slack, Trello, GitHub, they're all built for the enterprise, right? Those tools are taken into account that it's an enterprise team that has a product manager and they have a lot of fancy stuff to manage and run. It's a lot of work for a freelance developer to try to manage all those for a quick contract they need to fulfill on time and kind of operate. And we're dealing with people that are working for 10 companies at the same time, not one company where it's very focused. And so we don't integrate with any of those today. But one question that we've had is like, why is this better than me being a top developer and just creating a Slack and having 8 freelance developers in there and I just send work to them? And the answer to that is it's just 100 times more work. Like you're going to add them to the Slack, and then you're going to have to create a board, and you're going to have all these different platforms, and you're going to have to create the task yourself and different things like that. The last thing that I'll mention is like our best developer, a guy named Chris. He did $2.4 million in freelance software developer contracts as one person. And he has a team of 10 freelance developers. And so he mentioned that, he needed a tool like this, and he thought about building out it himself, but it wasn't worth it for just 11 people. And so he's kind of like the exact example that we're going after.
Are you using TrapFi to build TrapFi?
Yes, we are. So we have bounties amongst the founders, and it's like, hey, you have to complete this, you have to execute this in order to earn your bounty for the week. None of us have salaries, so we live on our bounties on our own platform.
That was a great question. I should have asked that.
What's up with the name?
Yeah, so Trap is slang for work. It's definitely sort of transitioned into pop culture, but started very, very underground. A secret that a lot of people don't know is like I was a freelance designer for a while, and Adobe actually released a study in 2002 that was how to trap using Adobe trapping technologies. And it's actually a form of design where you try to basically fit 2 layers together perfectly. And so it's a play on sort of an edgy underground culture that's transitioning into pop culture, as well as like design, technology, and computing, and different things like that. Fi comes from just a statement that I've been saying over the last 2 years, and that is that the only thing more accessible than the trap is Wi-Fi. And if we can make work as shared and as accessible as Wi-Fi, we can maybe do some good things in the world.
So just follow up, because I'm not in the industry, so I could have had 1,000 guesses at TrapFi and not gotten close, but it sounds like in your industry and in the developer community that when they see that name, TrapFi, that would trigger something to them that like you're saying, I'm just curious about your visibility, and as you're getting the brand out, how the name is affecting that. Is it working in the community that triggers something for them that didn't trigger for me?
Absolutely. So interesting enough, like we're biased, but developers are the best customers you can have because they honestly don't care about the brand. You don't have to do a lot of marketing and sales. If the tool works, they're going to tell all their friends about it, and they actually like seek tools actively. The tools are everything for them. And so we've done no marketing. We haven't spent any money on anything. We started with our network, inviting friends, and that's helped us grow to 500. But we'll see how that scales up over time.
Anybody else have a question?
You have another question? Yeah, I have. Okay. I can talk to him later.
Are you just looking at software development right now, or are you also looking to expand into, say, graphic design or other aspects of development?
Absolutely. So today we have 113 developer designers, and they're more on the design side, but they signed up as well. And we want to do this for knowledge work completely over time. We think knowledge work is infinitely shareable, but we're probably focused on software developers for the first year or so.
Okay, thank you.
Still have a question. So tell me a little bit about maybe fundraising obstacles that y'all have encountered, what that experience has been like.
Yeah, so my biggest fundraising obstacle is my team of founders does not want to raise money. It's been like pulling teeth to say like, hey, let's see how much faster we can grow with backing. And so outside of that, we've met with maybe 8 investors, a lot of interest. We're applying to Y Combinator and talk to them throughout the summer. I think it's the thing that I want to get better at is not using a lot of jargon from the developer world so that everybody can understand it clearly. And so that's something that I'm really trying to improve daily.
Awesome. Thank you. Does anyone else have any questions? Oh, Brad has a question.
So you mentioned about scalability, and as you ramp up, how do you plan to scale the platform?
Absolutely. So our 3 growth strategies, we're really doubling down on those. We are in talks with UTA and UNT about doing a hackathon tour where we go to different colleges, allow college students to quickly use our software. And these are CS students that are going to be going into full-time software developer positions in the future. And so just hackathon tours, invites, and just plugging into the developer community whenever we can. That's the most important thing. In terms of our tools, the thing that we're really excited about that we think will help us grow quicker and scale and make that a smooth process is like every step that we take in this process, we realize like, oh, that's a tool or that's a feature that's really unique to developer subcontracts. And so hopefully being able to sharpen this tool over time and then just reach the developer community.
This will be our last question from the audience, and we'll wrap up.
I'm kind of wondering about your functionality and user interface. Do you have capabilities like Basecamp where people can store files and then like also direct message each other, or is it sort of that one user interface that's predominant?
Absolutely. So we have one thing that you couldn't see there is you can chat on each task. And so If a developer has a question or they need to clarify something, they just click on that task and they'll chat on it. It kind of streamlines the conversation the way Slack channels do. One thing that is interesting is that we actually optimize for less chat. Like the least amount of the least amount of time the developers spend chatting back and forth, we think that means that our tools are really working, because it's just like, hey, I know what I need to do. I see the cost, I see the bounty, and so I kind of move through it that way. Does that make sense?
All right, Kim. Well, before I even ask the question, I did just want to say that I really appreciate your presentation, and I rarely have heard a presentation where someone has given such an informative overview of their company in 4 minutes. Like, yeah, that was really awesome, and I'm so happy that you touched on all of the key points that we asked you to as well. So thank you so much for that. And the very last question is, what can we as a community do to help you in your business?
So I would love to introduce anybody here who needs software built to our top developers. I will put my personal name, brand on, and bet on these guys and these girls that are amazing engineers and developers, and that can get your projects done at a really high level. And so if you're a small business and you need a website built, you need software built, you need to fine tune some tools, just give us a chance.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.